Hello, and welcome to the podcast, all about becoming a health coach. I'm Megan McCrory, an aspiring integrative nutrition health coach and a mountain climber. If this is the first time you're tuning in, I'm happy you found the podcast and a very, very special welcome to you. You may want to go back and listen from the beginning to hear more about my health coaching journey. But let's dive right in now to week 4, module 4. This week's lesson focused on the unique roles of health coaches versus dietitians versus nutritionists, so this kind of dynamic. We also learned how people learn about nutrition and how joy works into our health and happiness. So let's go first into health coaches, dietitians, and nutritionists. Now, I did touch on this subject in an earlier episode, maybe even one of the very first episodes that I did on what is a health coach and how is it different than a nutritionist. They did give us a few more, I thought, interesting distinctions. As a dietitian really has more secondary schooling. Typically 50% of them even have a master's in some kind of nutrition or whatnot. So nutritionists is more unregulated. So they gave 3 types of nutritionists: a certified clinical nutritionist, a certified nutritional consultant, and a certified nutritionist. And so, and how we health coaches should refer to ourselves as an integrative nutrition health coach. We can also call holistic nutrition health coach or whatnot, but we definitely should not be calling ourselves nutritionists. We definitely should not be calling ourselves dietitians. And they also, the course kind of went through where these different parts fit in, and they just did the difference between health coach and dietitian. And a lot of times the dietitian is more in a clinical environment, working with a doctor, where the health coach is typically a one-on-one environment or outside of like a clinical practice. Health coaches typically should stay towards what we would call relatively healthy people. I know that sounds silly, health coach for healthy people, but for example, like if you have someone struggling or battling cancer, you could help that person, but that person really should be, more with a doctor. However, if they, if this is something that's going on a long time and there is something that you can provide to them in ways of support from their health, that's great. But most new health coaches probably shouldn't be taking on something so. Yeah. So I thought this was really interesting, these differences. And after I listened to them, I realized that I really enjoy like deconstructing what I'm eating. I do calculate my macros. I do this like for 2 or 3 weeks every couple months just to kind of see where I'm at. I don't do it every day. I'm not like training for anything that I would need to do that. And but I'm wondering if in the future that I might go back to school to become a registered dietitian, because according to the coursework, really health coaches really shouldn't be prescribing a nutrition plan. We can support by suggesting a lot of whole foods and giving more good suggestions about what they should be eating. But really getting down to like how many calories the person should be having, their macro and micronutrient ratios, really comes more from a registered dietitian. So I think that sounds interesting for me. So I have to look into that in the future after I've been practicing as a health coach for a while. Another thing I need to look into are the Swiss licensing laws. So they talk a little bit about the U.S. licensing laws. And this last week they are pushing through some reforms about health coaches and recognizing health coaches in our legislature. So I assume at some point in time we can be registered or licensed as a health coach, which right now I think you're more likely to just have a certification from International Health Coaching or another coaching association. So I think that's really going to be interesting to watch how this develops in the world and how the world starts to embrace health coaches. I guess I'm really feeling good. I'd like to be an ambassador, obviously, for the health coaching because I think it's important. They have a really good way to kind of sum up what a health coach does and doesn't do. So this is what they wrote. A health coach does not diagnose, treat, or take responsibility for bringing about the wellness change in a client's life. Rather, they guide and support the development of and the progress towards those personal wellness goals. So it's very clear that, we're not diagnosing or treating. So that's good to keep it very clear. They also, the course gave us some information about where to stay clear. This is you could help this person with pre-diabetes, lose some weight and hopefully not, go to full-blown diabetes, but maybe you shouldn't help, maybe you should wait or think twice about helping somebody who's on a critical path somewhere. It seems counterintuitive, but on the other hand, the health coaching profession, in terms of the amount of education we have, is not nearly that of a doctor or nurse or physician. So I think it's good to have the limits there. Some of the things that we can do alongside registered dietitians and clinical nutritionists are corporate wellness programs, food and nutrition related businesses. Also, the wellness industry, you'll find these people working side by side. I've heard now more in the US, the private practices are becoming a little more popular to hire a health coach. And then also kind of community healthcare centers. So I think there's a good opportunity to work alongside those people in the other professions. And I'm curious, and I'm looking forward to the time when I can meet somebody in the other profession and really talk to them about their thoughts and feelings about health coaching and the health and wellness holistic coaching that's coming up the last 10, 15 years. So they went, the coursework went again through, dietary theories and whatnot. So the kind of the second main portion of the module 4 was around how people actually learn about nutrition, because nutrition really isn't taught in schools. Nutrition really isn't taught to doctors. I think I mentioned this also before on a previous episode. I think that surprises a lot of people. But in a normal physician's curriculum, there is no nutritional things. They know how the digestive system works, of course, but the nutrition aspect of it is not there. And that took a tangent long time ago and just never came back. I still am surprised at how, maybe it's coming back together now, but so how do normal people, learn about nutrition? And it seemed like a really obvious question that I had never ever thought about, because you learn it intrinsically through your parents who are feeding you and telling you what's good, but they know only because their parents told them what was good. And I had to stop and go okay, all of the information that I've learned about nutrition and health and wellness has basically come from reading books and the internet. Reading books before the internet came around, and now that the internet is here, the internet. So, or maybe magazines as well, right? And so on one of the videos, Joshua has just a table full of diet books. And he kind of goes through, and I just want to say, give you a few of these books. It's just really interesting. So he actually has them kind of segmented out and the first kind of dietary book that came about in our modern age, that we know of really, is Survival into the 21st Century, a Planetary Healer's Manual. And this was kind of kicking off. And then after that, the Wheatgrass book by Ann Wigmore, which I need to get because everybody raves about it. And I remember like this wheatgrass craze, like at the early 90s. I remember this. I'm like, wheatgrass? Why would you want to eat grass? But yeah, apparently it's pretty good for you. So So then he goes through and kind of says, okay, here's all the diet books that are written for the spiritual communities. So the Gospel of Peace, Body by God, Judaism and Vegetarianism, If Buddha Came to Dinner, Spiritual Nutrition, and the World Peace Diet, and What Would Jesus Eat? So, I mean, he talked about how, whenever there's a spiritual activity in your church or whatever, your synagogue, there's usually typically some kind of food related thing around it, either not eating food or eating specific types of food. So I thought that was interesting. I never thought about that before either. I had no idea that there were so many diet books just geared towards people of a certain religion. So that was interesting for me. Then he went on to talk about books like the No Willpower Diet book, which sounds great and probably sold fantastically. Also the I Love New York diet, and that went well. So the I Love America diet, and the cabbage soup diet, and the Dr. Atkins diet, and the glycemic index diet. So like kind of, working through how the evolution of the diets. He had a whole bunch of colored books, like The Color Code, Eat Your Colors, The Color of Your Diet. Again, I don't remember ever seeing this kind of book, but maybe I just never struck me, so I didn't pick it up. I mean, I do have the glycemic index diet book. I do have that one. Then some of the more interesting ones, like the peanut butter diet or the ice cream diet. Well, his point with all of this was basically to say that the nutrition, the information provided to the public has primarily been coming from the book publishing industry. And the book publishing industry wants to sell books. So they are going to have the best catchy headline they can to sell a book. And because there's really, up until the internet, right, there was really no other way for people to learn about nutrition other than picking up a book. So, of course, it makes perfect sense when he explains this and why there are so many diet books. And it just makes more sense. I hope this is a revelation for you guys, or maybe this was something you guys already knew. This was, to me, the whole concept of how do you learn about nutrition, like that basic question, it just flabbergasted me that I'd never realized this before. So the only reason really to bring it back to a point here is that your future clients may have an unrealistic expectation because they've only ever read diet books and magazines. And if they don't, first of all, if they read these and they try them and they don't work, this is already bad because they have a feeling that they've done something wrong, which in most cases it means probably that the diet just wasn't going to work for their body style, their bio-individuality. But it also means that they have like this kind of nutrition history log in their brain. I have one. I know I do. And I try to keep an open mind, but sometimes I'm like, oh no, that's wrong. But it's not really wrong. It's just wrong for me. So I think this is really, that was really a good part of Module 4. I was really excited about that. I went back and watched that video again. Okay, so the last part of the training that we learned was about joy. And joy is one of the primary foods in this kind of called a circle of life. So it's like a rainbow circle. And the primary foods, again, are career, relationships, physical activity, and spirituality. And the primary food is everything that nourishes you that's not food that you put in your mouth. And food that you put in your mouth is secondary food. So primary food and secondary food, you need both to be healthy. So in these lessons now, they've expanded those 4 and they filled in between the gaps. So joy is one of these kind of like sub-primary food topics. And what is joy? So this is the question. What is joy? And again, like joy, it's me being happy, right? Well, yes, it can be you being happy, but it's also, and I really, really like the way that they explain it, a deep experience of inward peace and happiness that's brought on when something in your life aligns deeply with your core values. I think, how do people come up with this stuff? I don't know, but I mean, it sounds really good. Like, I don't know how they came up with it. It makes it, yes, okay, this makes sense. Also, intense gratitude, can bring joy. And really, they outlined the difference between pleasure and joy, where pleasure is something like externally, like you're watching a parade with lots of funny people, and this is pleasurable because you're watching something that makes you laugh. So this is an external force on you. Whereas joy is an internal feeling, which doesn't necessarily relate to anything that's going on around you at that time. It's super interesting. So I don't know how necessarily to increase joy specifically. They did have a little exercise on like basically forcing yourself to laugh and jiggle and ha 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 for 30 seconds and kind of like fake it till you make it type of thing. But I don't know how you would increase joy other than maybe, no, I really don't know off the top of my head. So I guess this is what the questions they were asking is like, what brings you a deep sense of peace or gratefulness or pride? And then if you think about those things, then you'll drill down to what brings you joy. Interesting. Yeah. Alongside of the joy topic, they also had something that I thought was really, really cool, which is the 24 signature strengths. So the 24 signature strengths are like strengths of transcendence and strengths of justice, strengths of temperance. Anyway, all of these different strengths of your character, and you can take this yourself if you want to take the little quiz. It's not a little quiz. It's 240 questions. So 10 questions per strength. And so, yeah, you need at least about 20 minutes to answer all these. So I will put the link in the show notes, but it's at www.authentichappiness.sas.upenn.edu/test center. So if you want to go there and check it out, I did that, and my top 5, I just wanted to share my top 5 strengths because I think they're right on, but I'm not sure if it's like when you're taking the test, you could kind of know. I don't know. It's one of, whenever you're taking this test, it's like half whatever. I'm not sure what the science went into it. So my top 5 are humor, which I think is strongly noticeable if you know me. Curiosity, also true. I am definitely a lifelong learner. I am very curious about a lot of things. This sometimes gets me in trouble. The third one is the capacity to love and be loved. So I think that that's a good one. I believe that that's true. The fourth one is zest, enthusiasm, and energy. I also think that pretty good, it describes me. And the last one of my top 5 are kindness and generosity. Now, they give you a ranking of all 24 strengths. I just really wanted to stick to the top 5. But if you're interested in that, like I said, I'll put a link in the show notes, and you can go take your own test. You do have to create a profile there, but then there's a bunch of other little tests and quizzes that you can take, all related to personality and other things. So if you're interested in that, that's cool. You can try it out. This module 4 was really good. I liked it. It was much more interesting. One of the things that I really liked about module 4 was they asked us to go take Gretchen Rubin's quiz on the 4 tendencies. And this is actually one of the things I knew from the very beginning when I started this journey was that however I was going to do my practice, I would have my one-on-one clients, or maybe all my clients, take Gretchen Rubin's quiz with the 4 tendencies, because the 4 tendencies really tell you how the person reacts and responds to inner and outer expectations. And as a health coach and somebody who you're working with, you want to make sure that they will absorb and understand and react on the information you're giving them in a way that works best for them. The 4 tendencies are an upholder. An upholder meets inner and outer expectations both all the time. So if they want to do something, they'll do it. And if they're told to do something, they'll do it. Then the obliger is a person who meets outer expectations, but struggles to meet inner expectations. So meaning if their boss tells them that something needs to be done, they're likely to do it. But if they're working for themselves, it's very less likely that they'll get something done instead of doing something for somebody else. Then the third one is a questioner. I'm a questioner. And this is, they meet basically inner expectations very easily because as long as you know why. And then outer expectations, you really have to know why. Why are you being asked to do this? So I thought that was, spot on again. And then last one is a rebel, and they don't really do anything. They, even if they make their own list for something to do, they may not do it. So I think that I know that I really wanted to have that information about my clients so that I would know better how they would react to let's try this week. And if you say it to a rebel, let's try this week, let's try adding more, quinoa, they would be like, no, I don't feel like it. But if you say it to a rebel, if you feel like it, quinoa would be a good addition to your diet this week, and you just reframe it for a rebel, it's much more likely that they're going to take it. Or you would say, healthy people are eating quinoa, and if a rebel identifies with wanting to be healthy, they'll eat quinoa. Or whatever it is. So I think that's a really critical part, and I'm super happy that I saw this in the module this week. So I think that about wraps it up for Module 4. I'm feeling really, really good about the courses. Module 4, the week was difficult for me just simply because work was really busy, and I also overbooked myself in terms of social events and meeting with friends for after work. So I need to adjust that and make sure that I'm not overbooking myself. So the good part is I knew in advance that I overbooked myself. It wasn't like spur of the moment, last minute things. So I was able to kind of brace for the busyness. And that worked well for me. So if you are, again, thank you for joining me. If you are a health coach in training right now, I would super love to get in touch with you, and maybe we could have a conversation, record it for the podcast to talk about the different types of schools that we're in. I think that would be quite interesting to hear somebody else how the structure of the course is and what you're learning in relation to the timing that what we're learning. And if you're already a health coach, thank you for listening. And for everybody else who just wanted to know what was going on here, I appreciate you stopping by and paying attention and listening. If you do have any questions for me, please feel free to email me at becomingahealthcoach@gmail.com. My website is mybestself.fit. That's it. So www.mybestself.fit. And join me there. I do write some articles, and that's where my podcast is hosted. And also, if you're interested in working with me in the future, I will have, you can sign up there to be in my newsletter and my mailing list, and you'll know when I will start taking clients. So thanks again. I wish you all a really great day, and I'll talk to you next week. Thanks.
Hey, you're still listening. Great. Okay, now I can tell you about my 12-week goal setting session. So in this 1-hour session, I'm going to help guide you through a powerful process inspired by the best-selling book, The 12-Week Year. I know. Everybody at this time of the year starts to think about year-long goals. And I would argue that year-long goals are really hard to contextualize. What is going to be happening in a year from now? You have no idea. But 12 weeks gives you a little bit better understanding because you kind of already have your calendar booked out for the next 12 weeks, kind of know what's going to be going on. So if you can focus your goals on the next 12 weeks, you can make some really big actionable steps towards your long-term vision. So in this 1-hour session, we do talk about long-term vision. We talk about where you want to be. We talk about what your 5-year, 10-year, 3-year, all those goals are. But that's only a brief part. We know, we see the long distance view, but let's break that down. And then we get into the 1 to 3 strategic 12-week goals that are going to get you to those long-term vision. Then we're going to put that into a really cool action plan with like checklists and timing and all that jazz to make sure that you are clear and that you have accountability to get those goals done. And then that's not it. Then we are going to tackle your roadblocks because you know you have roadblocks. So we're going to tackle those roadblocks. We're going to create a plan to overcome them. So you know when you start to self-sabotage, you know what you can do to get around those roadblocks. Okay, so if this is interesting for you, it is only 1 hour of your time and it's only 45 Swiss francs. I host this gig over on Fiverr, but I'm also going to put a link down in the show notes. So if you're interested, hit me up.